Don, what was the conversation like between you and Trey Mancini that seems to have made such a big difference with him lately?
Well, I don't know that it's one conversation, Rock. I think it's, with a lot of guys, it's just an ongoing process of just working to slow everything down. Confidence is is it's a fragile thing. I'm not saying with Trey necessarily, but just in general at this level. And so we're constantly working on that aspect of the game and constantly, not only from the mental side, but from the physical side, actually working to slow the game down. What does that mean? How do you accomplish it? From a mindset perspective, and then also from a physical perspective. And really those two things work hand in hand. I can slow my mind down in the game. It's one thing to do it in practice, but to be able to do it in the game, then my body usually follows. And when that happens, then I'm able to do what I'm already able to do. But until that happens with Trey or any of these guys, it's you're going to see inconsistency. And so I think it's just a matter of an ongoing conversation of keeping where he's been, and what he's been through in perspective, and not try and get it all back at once, and not necessarily even trying to recapture what he was a couple years ago, but be able to become the best version of what he is right now. And you have to kind of live in the moment to be able to do that.
Bill Ladson, go ahead.
Of all the players this year, who's the most pleasant surprise? Also, you guys are near the bottom of OPS. What do you want to see the team do in order to improve in that category and in batting average?
Well, I think obviously the great start that Cedric has had, through the first 25 games. And, I was really proud of him last year for kind of his personality emerging. The first year that he was here and kind of getting to know him, he was fairly quiet, which he's not a real boisterous guy anyways. But you could see his personality and who he really was emerge last year. And I think you see that this year as well. And so he's obviously performed well. He's been very consistent with what he's trying to do at home plate, very consistent with his work. And I really think that because he was the one that said, I just want to hit left-handed, and he kind of, I think, arrived at that decision after the end of the season last year, and he actually went to work on it. I think his confidence level is very high. And I think a big part of that was him being the one to initiate it rather than, being us telling him, we think you need to do this. So he's grabbed a hold of that and he's really run with it, and he's done a fantastic job. So I'm very excited about him and what he's been able to do. As far as the OPS part of it, it's kind of two parts. You can build OPS by getting on base and by slugging. You can build some OPS numbers by being good at one or the other. So I think you have to understand who you are as a hitter, what your strengths are, how that plays into that end result, that end number, and really try and maximize what you're good at. And, that in the end will show up. And we've got some guys who are still, trying to get to either one of those things. They're trying to be better in the zone when they get good pitches to hit, being able to put the ball and play hard, and limiting their chases outside of the zone. And it kind of goes back to Rock's question. You have guys at different places mentally, and they're all trying to figure out, how do I become the best version of myself in the game? And so we, like I said, it's a consistent day-to-day thing with many, many guys. And that's just the nature of hitting. You have three guys hot, swinging the bat well, three guys not really trying to figure it out, and everybody else somewhere in between, ready to go one way or the other. So you kind of have to check in with that with everybody on a daily basis.
John Mioli, go ahead.
Don, there might have been, maybe 1 month in Ryan Mountcastle's whole career coming up to the big leagues where he dealt with what he's dealing with now. When someone is so unfamiliar with these struggles, what's your approach to trying to help him get out of it?
Yeah, and then that's a great point. I've had guys over the years who the first time they struggled was at the major league level. For any like a prolonged period of time, and that is the toughest place to go through that for the first time. No doubt about it, because you're asking yourself to make adjustments against the best pitching there is. And from my standpoint, having been in development for many years, you almost hope you challenge a prospect type guy, and he does have a period of struggle coming up. So they learn how to deal with it, and they learn that they're going to be okay. And I'm really encouraged by his at-bats here the last few days. Again, we've been trying to make some fundamental changes, not in his swing, but in his kind of pre-pitch in terms of his rhythm and timing and really being ready to hit, and trying to simplify what he does so he gets to a consistent strong position to hit, so he can make better decisions about what he swings at. And then when he does swing, put the ball in play hard and have the at-bat be over. And he did something in an at-bat a couple days ago. He had a hit on a 2-strike breaking ball down and away. It was a good pitcher's pitch, and he kind of hit a kind of a medium line drive to center field. But in that at-bat, the first pitch, he did kind of his normal leg kick thing that he does, and he was late, and he immediately recognized that. And before the second pitch was thrown, he went to a simpler version of his normal routine to get ready to hit. And he did that on his own in the box during the course of the game, rather than just letting the whole at bat get away from him. In the moment, he was able to go, okay, I need to do this right now to be able to have success in this at bat. And so when I see something like that, I start to see a maturity in what he's doing, which being able to adjust within the at bat is a really good sign for him. And I thought his at bat off Chapman yesterday, although he struck out, he was on the ball much better than he would have been earlier in the year against a guy with much lesser stuff. So he's coming around, and we've talked, and it's a matter of working on the right things every day, and not just doing the same thing every day and hoping for something better, but actually working towards something better, and working on rhythm and timing and being on time and simplifying the process to get ready to hit. And by doing those two things, you're going to be in a better position on time. You'll make better decisions. You're going to square more balls up, and you're not going to dig yourself out of it in one game. But if you focus on doing that every day and doing the right kind of work and being committed to it every day over the course of a long season, the results will show. And I completely believe that he's on that path right now, and that's the direction he's heading.
Rich Dubroff, go ahead.
Hey, Don, because Ryan hit so well, because his numbers were so good last year, could you almost see that something like this was inevitable to start the year?
You hope not. But when you look at I looked at his chase rate a couple days ago this year compared to last year, it's almost the same. So it's not like he's chasing more than he did last year. Just when he swung in the zone last year, and in particular on fastballs, his production was much better. So, there's not a big difference there. I've seen many guys over the years. I can think back to being in rookie, when I was roving with the Phillies, there was a kid in rookie ball who was performing really well. And I checked in with the coach and said, what kind of work has he been doing this week? He said, well, it really hasn't been doing anything. And he said, don't you know? And I said, well, apparently I don't. So why don't you go ahead and tell me? And he said, well, he's got a 16-game hitting streak. And I said, that's great for that kid. He was a young kid, like 19 years old, playing in the New York Penn League. And I said, that's great. He has a 16-game hitting streak because he needs that, to build himself up. I said, but let me ask you a question. If you took this kid right now and let's put him in high A in Clearwater in the Florida State League, how well would he do? He said he'd get killed. I said, exactly. So it's a really fine line between, nurturing confidence, but also doing the things necessary to ensure that as they move up, or in this case, they're at the major league level, they're putting themselves in the best position for success. And I can imagine, to John's point, that with Ryan never having gone through, as he signed and worked his way up to the minor leagues, never having really gone through a prolonged period of time where he wasn't successful, it's easy, because he's performing, not to do maybe one or two things that are necessary inevitably that he's going to need to do to be his best up here at this level. And I think that that's something that, we always need to check in with. There's exceptions to every rule. There's guys that look ugly but can always hit, and they've hit from the time they were a kid all the way through the big leagues. But there's many times where guys do need to make some adjustments. And, so I think that's kind of where Ryan is right now.
David Laurila, go ahead.
Hey, Don. I've had a couple of people tell me recently that because velocity is up so much and breaking balls have gotten so good, that pitchers had started pitching more to stuff than to scouting reports. Do you find that to be accurate? And if it is, what does it mean for hitters approach-wise?
Well, I think you see a lot more pitchers who are less interested in spotting the ball necessarily. It's more stuff over command and control. I mean, they're trying to command the ball around the strike zone, but control within the strike zone is not as important. And, quite frankly, you see more elevated four-seam fastballs than, years past, certainly than when I got to the big leagues many years ago coaching. And you see a higher frequency of off-speed stuff. And so I think hitters have to be able to adjust to that. It's a constant game of back and forth. It used to be a lot of sinker, slider, changeup type guys trying to pitch down in the zone. God forbid a pitcher was ever taught to pitch up in the zone. The mantra for years was you got to pound the ball down in the zone. And then they discovered, as hitters started to adjust to what pitchers were trying to do, now the pitchers adjusted back. And so that's where you kind of, obviously there's more knowledge about spin rate and all of those things with the fastball, with the four-seamer up. And so now we're in a period of time where I think hitters are going to have to shorten their approach to the ball and become more line drive oriented in general, rather than fly ball oriented, to combat what the pitchers are able to do in the game right now. For sure. And honestly, and I show these guys quite a bit of the time, their best production is when they're hitting a line drive. By far, they're on base, they're slugging, to Bill's point, when you have a line drive approach, that's where your best overall production lies. Some guys are better. Nobody's really good when they hit the ball on the ground. Some guys are better when they hit the ball in the air just because they're slug there. They can hit doubles, they can hit homers. But every hitter to a guy is always better when they're hitting the ball on a line. And so that's really what we promote and try and get guys to buy into. And because I think it makes you a tougher lineup to pitch to in the end, and a tougher lineup to defend.